Have you noticed something odd? People earning £60,000, £80,000, even £100,000 a year are having conversations that sound suspiciously similar to people earning half that. They're comparing supermarket prices, delaying holidays, worrying about energy bills, and increasingly, they're asking a question that would have sounded ridiculous 20 years ago. How much money do you actually need to feel comfortable in Britain? Because for a lot of people, the answer seems to be, apparently, more than this. And that's strange, because many of these people did everything they were told to do. They got the qualifications, built careers, earned promotions, worked longer hours, made sensible decisions. Yet, somehow the feeling of security keeps moving further away. They're not failing. In fact, many of them are doing exactly what society told them to do. Like they've somehow missed an email that everyone else received. You know the sort. One of those emails that says, "Congratulations, everyone else has figured out adulthood." Because when you look around, it often feels like everyone else knows something you don't. And unfortunately, nobody can tell you what it is. And the weird part, they're not failing. They're doing exactly what society told them to do. They studied, they worked hard, they built careers, they contributed to pensions. Some of them even read terms and conditions. The problem isn't necessarily them. The problem might be the instructions. Because the world those instructions were written for doesn't really seem to exist anymore. Take a typical middle-class professional. Good job, good education, pays taxes, recycles, occasionally remembers which bin is actually for cardboard. A genuine pillar of society, the sort of person politicians claim to care about every election cycle before immediately forgetting they exist for another 5 years. 10 years ago, this person would have described themselves as comfortable, not rich, not buying islands, not arriving at Waitrose by helicopter, just comfortable. The sort of comfortable where opening your banking app wasn't treated as an act of emotional courage. The sort of comfortable where an unexpected bill was irritating rather than a full-scale financial event. Today, they're comparing energy tariffs at 11:43 at night, like they're decoding enemy communications during the Cold War. They're reading forums, watching comparison videos, building spreadsheets, trying to determine whether Economy Saver Plus Ultraflex is actually cheaper than Economy Saver Plus Ultraflex Premium. Nobody knows, not even the company selling it. One tab is electricity, one tab is gas. One tab is a forum called, "Help, why is my direct debit now larger than my first car?" And somehow, this has become normal adult behavior. Nobody warned us about this part. Careers advisors never mentioned that one day we'd become emotionally invested in standing charges. Let's start with housing, because every British conversation eventually becomes about housing. Weather, football, politics. The collapse of Western civilization doesn't matter. Give it 5 minutes and someone will mention house prices, usually with the haunted expression of a person who has just seen a ghost. If you're lucky, your parents will join in. They'll tell you something incredibly helpful. "We just saved up and bought a house." That's the advice. That's the entire strategy. No further explanation, no supporting evidence. Just a sentence that now sounds like it was passed down from an ancient civilization. No spreadsheets, no mortgage brokers, no YouTube tutorials, no Facebook groups called Operation Home Ownership, no podcast episodes titled 5 Secrets Estate Agents Don't Want You to Know. They simply saved up and bought a house, which today sounds less like financial advice and more like folklore. It's discussed with the same level of credibility as dragons, Atlantis, and finding an NHS dentist. Modern house buying feels less like purchasing a property and more like completing a side quest in an open world video game. First, you need the deposit. To get the deposit, you need savings. To get the savings, you need discipline. To get the discipline, you apparently need to stop buying coffee until the heat death of a universe. And that's assuming you've actually found a house, because finding a house now involves approximately the same emotional journey as online dating. You spend hours scrolling through listings, most are disappointing, some are clearly lying, and occasionally you find one that looks promising before discovering it sold sometime during the reign of Henry VIII. The photos never help. Every room is apparently spacious, every kitchen is apparently stunning, every garden is apparently low maintenance. Then you arrive in person and realise the estate agent has committed crimes against reality using a wide-angle lens. You walk into what was described as a generous third bedroom and discover it's actually a cupboard with ambition. If you stand in the middle of the room and stretch your arms out, you're technically redecorating. One wrong step and you've accidentally left the room. Then comes the bidding process, which economists describe as a market, and normal people describe as complete nonsense. You offer what feels like an absurd amount of money, somebody offers more. Then somebody else's parents appear, carrying 40 years of property appreciation like a financial superpower. And somehow you're expected to compete with that. It's like entering Formula One on a bicycle and being told everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. Technically true, practically hilarious. The bicycle owner is unlikely to trouble the podium. But housing isn't the only thing that feels different. Let's return to inflation, because inflation is one of those topics economists discuss calmly while ordinary people stare at supermarket receipts in stunned silence. The two groups rarely seem to be having the same conversation. There was a time when you could buy snacks without needing a financial strategy. Now a meal deal feels less like lunch and more like a strategic investment decision. You're standing there, comparing sandwiches like a hedge fund manager evaluating emerging markets. Every product seems to have undergone a mysterious transformation. The packet is smaller, the price is higher, the marketing is more enthusiastic than ever. Apparently, paying more for less is now called innovation, which is reassuring. I was worried it might simply be paying more for less. Chocolate bars have become particularly creative. Some are now approximately the size of a postage stamp, yet somehow the packaging still suggests you're about to experience luxury. Luxury appears to mean receiving 3 bites instead of 4. Then you reach the checkout. This is where the real drama begins. The scanner starts beeping. Numbers begin appearing. The total rises steadily upward like a rocket launch. You begin mentally cancelling future purchases before you've even left the shop. By the time you've finished paying, you've somehow convinced yourself that cheese is an optional lifestyle choice. Not because you dislike cheese, because you've seen the receipt. And for a brief moment, mature cheddar starts looking like a luxury reserved for hedge fund managers, minor royalty, and people who've recently inherited a small estate. Now here's where things become genuinely confusing, because wages have gone up, careers have progressed. Many people are objectively earning more than they did 10 years ago. Yet the feeling of financial comfort seems to be moving backwards, which is not how progress is supposed to work, at least not according to the brochure. You get a promotion. Fantastic. You celebrate. You update LinkedIn. You briefly imagine you finally made it. Then your mortgage increases, your insurance increases, your energy bill increases, your weekly shop increases, and suddenly your promotion feels less like a victory and more like a draw, a very administrative draw. It's like filling a bathtub while somebody else is secretly removing the plug. Technically, you're making progress. The water level is rising. It's just not rising nearly as quickly as you'd hoped, or been promised, or implied by several motivational LinkedIn posts. The strange thing is that modern work often feels harder than ever. More meetings, more emails, more responsibilities, more systems, more passwords. Nobody has ever explained why accessing one spreadsheet now requires 17 separate logins and a small ceremony involving multi-factor authentication. Entire industries now seem dedicated to creating new ways to schedule meetings about future meetings. Somewhere in Britain, right now, a man is attending a call whose sole purpose is arranging another call. He doesn't know why. Nobody does. Even the organizer looks confused. We've reached a stage where people proudly announce they're double booked, triple booked, or fully booked until next Thursday, which sounds impressive until you realize it means they've accidentally become professional calendar managers. Some people now spend more time moving meetings than attending them. Yet despite all this effort, many people still feel stuck. Not poor, not desperate, just stuck. Like they're running very hard without getting significantly closer to where they wanted to be. It's like being promoted to the captain of a Titanic after it has already hit the iceberg. Technically, your career is progressing. Circumstances are less supportive. Then we arrive at tax, Britain's favourite national pastime after discussing the weather. The reward for earning more money is discovering how many more people would like some of it. Success starts to feel surprisingly communal. Everybody wants to celebrate your achievement. Now, before anyone writes an angry comment, taxes obviously fund important things: roads, schools, hospitals, the occasional traffic cone that appears to have been studying the same section of road since 2014. Some infrastructure projects seem less like construction and more like long-running art installations. There is something uniquely British about receiving a pay rise and immediately opening a calculator. Not to celebrate, not to plan a holiday, but to determine how much of the increase actually belongs to you. It's a celebration mixed with mild administrative disappointment, like winning a raffle and discovering the prize is taxable. And perhaps that's the real story. The middle class hasn't disappeared. It hasn't become poor. It hasn't failed. It's simply discovered that doing well and feeling secure are no longer the same thing. People aren't chasing yachts. They're chasing stability. They're chasing predictability. They're chasing the feeling that all this effort is leading somewhere. And for many people in Britain today, that feeling has become surprisingly expensive. Anyway, I've got to go. Apparently my energy provider has emailed me again. Wish me luck.